both red and gray. Skillful and daring horsemanship is called for, over such an exceedingly stiff country. T.R. never lacked of daring, as evidenced by his broken arm. The 4th of July was a special day for the children. They acquired firecrackers and other fireworks, and T.R. supervised their ignition. Winter brought sledding, sleigh rides, and snowball fights. After T.R. learned about cross-country skiing from a Norwegian employee at the Smithsonian Institution in Washington, the sons at home got to try that as well. Not surprisingly, living the strenuous life, Roosevelt as well as his children were often injured. He was battered regularly in polo matches and even performing household chores. T.R. managed to escape serious injury despite spending hours at one of his favorite activities, chopping wood. But when the windmill became stuck one summer, T.R. grabbed an oil can and climbed the 60-foot framework with forgetting to shut the mill off. Just as the wind veered, causing the vane to swing around and remove a slice from his scalp. Ugh. Retreating to the house covered in blood, he was greeted in the front hall by Edith. Familiar with such occurrences, she remarked, "Theodore, I should wish you would do your bleeding in the bathroom. You're spoiling every rug in the house." The fact that the house included the gunroom illustrates that firearms played an important part in the life of the Roosevelts. T.R. taught the children about guns and how to use them properly at a young age. Squirrels and rats and other small animals on the property were targets. Roosevelt paid Archie to shoot crows from the gunroom windows across the 3rd floor, presumably because they ate the corn growing on the property. But there were instances when weapons were fired with questionable judgment. When Ted III was 9, T.R. presented him with his first gun, but it was too dark to go outside to try it out. Ted III brought the Low-Brent rifle to his father while he was dressing for dinner and wondered whether it was real. His father put a cartridge into the chamber and said, "You must promise not to tell Mother." He then fired the weapon into the ceiling with such slight noise, very little smoke, and a tiny hole that Edith was never the wiser. Ted III wrote about the cousins practicing with a new rifle, using the side of the bathhouse as a target. The next day his father tried on a new bathing suit that was hanging inside the shed to show it to his friends. They looked at it and found that the seat of the trousers was punctured with a series of holes like the bottom of the sieve. Other than the rifle bullet in the ceiling, the house was the scene of more serene activity than the barn or 200-foot-high Cooper's Bluff. Ted III wrote, On three sides runs a broad veranda. The northwest looks towards the Sound, beyond which rise the blue hills of Connecticut. Big battered armchairs stand in groups. In the evening we gather there in the restful dark and talk to the creak of the rockers. When the lights of the Fall River boat from New York had passed out of sight beyond Lloyd's Neck, it was the rule that the young ones should go to bed. T.R. did roughhouse with the children inside the house regularly, to the point that Edith asked him not to do it in the evening because they would not be able to sleep. The gunroom, filled with T.R.'s books and firearms, was a magnet for the children, especially inside a crawl space between the rafters that was filled with all sorts of mysterious treasures. Meals were lively, with Theodore leading the wide-ranging discussions and his wife trying to maintain a measure of decorum. When the children were old enough to act properly, they were allowed to stop eating in the nursery and join the rest of the family in the dining room, with the eldest next to T.R. and the youngest next to Edith. So that would mean Alice would be next to T.R. and Quentin would be next to Edith. There were guests at the table for many of those meals. The most frequent visits were from relatives, particularly Theodore's sisters and members of the two other Roosevelt families living in Cove Neck. Sagamore Hill is one of the 3 neighboring houses in which small cousins spent very happy years of childhood. T.R. related in his biography, in the 3 houses there were at one time 16 of these small cousins. Theodore and Edith's children also spent lots of time at neighboring Roosevelt homes, often at meal times. Ted III wrote, "My cousin's family used to have breakfast at 7. My family had breakfast at 8. Both families had old-fashioned American meals. Cereal, waffles, corned beef hash, beefsteak, potatoes. We boys were accustomed during the summer to breakfast regularly at both houses. The half hour in between and the half of a mile walk was all that we needed to whet our appetites again. The pantry at Sagamore Hill, of course, had to be kept locked at all times, or we would have gorged there continually." As T.R.'s political career and other interests developed, there was an increasing stream of non-family visitors. T.R.'s prediction for inclusiveness could cause headaches for his wife. Edith wrote to her sister in 1899 that she had left Oyster Bay on a Thursday after having ordered lunch for 9 to be ready on Sunday. By the time I got back, my lunch had grown to 22, including the Governor General of Canada and Sir Thomas Lipton, the tea magnate and yacht racer. Relatives and favorite guests, such as Cecil Spring Rice, the English diplomat who had been T.R.'s best man at his wedding to Edith, might stay for a month. Other prominent visitors included politician Henry Cabot Lodge, artist Frederick Remington, novelists Edith Wharton and Edna Ferber, writer-reformer Jacob Riis, prize-fighter John L. Sullivan, and British playwright Sir James Matthew Barrie, creator of Peter Pan. With all the activity, the Roosevelt children loved living in the large informal house. As the children grew up, Sagamore Hill remained delightful for them. Roosevelt recounted in his autobiography, "There were picnics and riding parties, there were dances and open-air plays on the green tennis court of one of the cousins' homes." In his autobiographical All in the Family, written in his late 20s, Ted III recounted, "The house was that air of having been lived in. It never was and never will be entirely in repair. There are always boards missing in the lattice under the piazza. We would not wish it to be groomed like a war profiteer's mansion just delivered from the hands of an interior decorator." The family loved the house the way it was, so saw little need for change. Despite T.R.'s exuberance and impulsiveness, those changes that were made, especially in the introduction of new technology, were done conservatively, more in keeping with Edith's sensibilities. For example, the ringing of a telephone was not heard until 1902, and then only because Roosevelt had become president and Sagamore Hill was the summer White House. Before that, anyone who wanted to speak with T.R. had to call an Oyster Bay drugstore, which would dispatch a boy on a bicycle to take the message up the hill. To be continued.